What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be talking about Death of a Unicorn. This is the latest A24 movie, now in theaters, starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega as a father and daughter who are on their way to visit a family to hopefully strike a deal that will set them up for their future. So this movie takes place essentially in this remote mansion out in the wilderness. Like I said, Paul Rudd is a father who recently lost his wife, Jenna being the daughter, losing her mother. They're kind of going on this work trip, primarily for Paul's character, where he's hoping to land a deal with his family as their attorney, I believe, or lawyer, and hopefully that will set his daughter up for the future, because he made this promise that he just wanted to make sure that his daughter would never have to want for anything in life. And this movie covers tons of different topics, and we'll get into them as we go. But the cast on this movie is pretty impressive. I mean, we've got Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, we've got Will Poulter, Richard E. Grant, Tia Leone, and many others. Another one was Anthony Carrigan, which I know him from the HBO series Barry. And everyone kind of brings their own flavor to the table for the most part, and we'll get into that in just a second. But Death of a Unicorn, so let's go ahead and just get into the unicorn piece. So as our main two characters are driving up through this wilderness preserve on their way to this house mansion, they hit an animal in the road, which turns out to be a unicorn. And it just kind of sets this movie up because it's something you just we don't see. It's setting up this world of do these magical creatures exist, especially as we're going up this mountainous forest. We see these caves and we hear these sounds, and it's kind of setting up that yes, these creatures do exist, they're just kind of hiding. And that's a lot of what this movie focuses around, is the unknowns, right? Of what happens when you find something that's you're unfamiliar with, and then discovering can it do things, whether it be good or bad. And this movie kind of goes in both of those areas, because this is a movie that is heavy on the classic saying, F around and find out, because you have these different people that have different means and resources, so they're going to approach this in different ways. One of which, Paul Rudd's character being this father and wanting to set up his family for the future and make sure they don't have to want for anything. So he's leaning heavy into that role. And then you have this other family that they're going to meet, which is an extremely wealthy family that have all the means in the world. They have this butler, maid service. They have these doctors on hand. And Richard E. Grant, he is a character who is essentially dying. So he is putting all of his time and resources in trying to find a cure, because when you go into the extreme wealthy, it's always about, well, we already have everything, but we always want more. And typically it deals with mortality, right? How can we live longer or potentially live forever? And once we bring this unicorn into the mix, we discover that, its blood basically has curing abilities. And that's quickly discovered, and now it becomes this race of well, how do we mass produce this and go start selling it, calling all of these political figures that they know, and kind of setting up that stage of we found something, it's incredible, this could lead us to immortality, and now they just want to make a profit off of it. So you get that aspect of it. But then you also have Jenna Ortega's character, who's basically we don't know what this is. We don't know where they come from. We don't know what all it's actually going to do. We should probably just leave it be. Let's not mess with nature. Let's just kind of take this back, or figure out what we need to do and just move on and not disrupt the nature of things. And then that's when this movie kind of shifts more into a little bit of a horror element, because this is a mix of some satire, dark comedy, horror. And then once we get into that third act, that horror element kicks in, especially when you're dealing with the other unicorns, because they run over a baby and now the parents are coming to look for it. And I've seen some reviews kind of make note of this, and look, I gotta say it, it's hard not to picture this third act as a Jurassic Park nod, because we're in this mansion, these unicorns eventually get in, and it becomes this, game of hide and seek with them that felt very much like the raptor scene from Jurassic Park when the kids are like in the kitchen and in the freezer and they're hiding from the velociraptors. This whole sequence really kind of felt like that. Granted, this one is definitely amplified with the gore and some visual effects and even practical effects, and it makes it for a fun watch. But going to this movie as a whole, it's okay. Like, I had a pretty good time watching it. I just don't think the execution was entirely there. One of the downsides for me was Paul Rudd's character. Paul Rudd, a big fan, and generally I enjoy most things that he's in, but I thought his character and the script he was given just wasn't the strongest. None of his jokes would land. It felt very out of place. He was leaning a lot more into this, drama side, father figure, just wanting to be there, protect his daughter, and just leaned heavily into that. And so anytime he had a one-liner or a moment to be funny, that unfortunately just did not land for me. As well as Jenna Ortega's character, it's very repetitive. It's very much like, let me dig into this and bring it up, and then no, we're not going to talk about that, and then 5 minutes later I'm going to bring it up again, and it just didn't really vibe as well. There was something off there, but in a way it kind of works when you're dealing with these two different families, especially as I mentioned before, as they coming from different means and they look at things in different ways. I think the standout for me was Will Poulter. His character I thought was hilarious. I watched this in a room of, a pretty decent sized theater room with other people, and everyone was cracking up at his moments, and he was definitely the standout, and he was definitely eating up every moment he could on screen. And it's like, I think his character alone and what he was given makes this rewatchable. Now, when it comes to the unicorns and the effects, you do get a mix of visual effects and practical effects, which is pretty cool that they did some practical effects, and there's moments where you can tell when that happens. And overall, I thought they were fine. I thought, it kind of brings a creepiness to it, and especially when you get near the end and things kind of amplify and they're just going crazy, it makes for an entertaining watch. And I think there's some discussion pieces you can find in this movie, but all in all, it's definitely not a great movie by any means, but I think there's enough in here many can have fun with and be entertained by. It's just such a shame that Paul Rudd's character was probably the biggest letdown disappointment in this movie, because I was hoping a lot more from him. So Death of the Unicorn, the latest from A24, takes place in this world where unicorns exist. We're dealing with the social and political side of things of having nothing, wanting more, having everything and still wanting more. What is the unknown? What can it do? What happens if you just mess around and find out? It covers a lot of things, and there's a lot of fun talking points, and I think if you go see this with people, you're going to have a good time. But Death of the Unicorn, overall, I would say go check it out if you have time this weekend. It's a fun watch. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll be back again with more reviews. Be sure to like and subscribe. Definitely helps this channel out so much. Kind of want to do something fun soon. I'm hoping I can maybe do a video showing off my steelbook collection. Potentially do an office tour sometime soon. Maybe showcase more the Batman wall, things like that. So I want to kind of do more outside of movie reviews soon. So be sure to subscribe so you can know when those videos drop. Hope we'll see you soon.